Hey there, folks. Welcome to another edition of Stranger in a Southern Land. I, of course, am your host, Jake Manning. Today, we'll be featuring Muddy River Distillery. We'll be sitting down with Robbie, the founder, owner, and operator of Muddy River Distillery. Robbie's kind of a self-made man. He saw a need for distilleries in North Carolina and just kind of made it happen. He's the type of individual I want to have on this podcast. He had a creative idea on how to build a business out of nothing. And, he had to go through a lot of hoops and a lot of hurdles to do it because it's not easy to start a distillery in North Carolina. And I got to say, he makes pretty good rum, and I should know because he gave me a bottle, and as you can see, it's empty. But, we don't keep a lot of full alcohol bottles in my house for very long, that's for sure. But anyways, Robbie runs the distillery with his wife, and you actually see her working in the background. They're so hectic that they couldn't stop operation just even for a chance to talk with me. In fact, when I showed up, Robbie had to run to one end of the warehouse and then back to the other. He had to operate a forklift, then run back and check on the still, then run back and get something, then check on the still again. So, they're pretty hectic over there at Muddy River Distillery. So make sure you support them. Pick up a bottle or two. They're working hard over there. But anyways, I'll be working hard here in a couple of months. Actually, all the last couple of days and stuff like that, I've probably been working pretty hard for WrestleCon. I'm actually recording this before I head out there while I'm clear-headed right now. But I'll be coming back, and I'll probably be pretty groggy. And that's why I'm going to be taking the weekend off. And but I want to get some dates out there right now upcoming because they're pretty important, and I really want to let you guys know about it and give it an extra week of promotion, even though I don't have anything going on specifically this weekend. But in a couple weeks, I will be at Northeast Wrestling in Danbury, Connecticut on April 10th. I will be returning up to Danbury, and last time I was there, I had a pretty good match. So, let's keep the streak alive and see if I can have another good one in Danbury on April 10th. That, of course, is a Friday, and make sure you look up Northeast Wrestling online for more details. Also, too, Monday, April 13th, I will be performing stand-up comedy at the Charlotte Comedy Zone. It is a free show. Doors are at 7. It's a part of a stand-up comedy class that I've been doing. I've been trying to work on and prepare, write, edit, redo, learn how to perform stand-up comedy. I've been working real hard at it along with everybody in my class. There'll be a group of performers. We'll be getting up, doing a couple minutes, and they'll be performing for you. So, if nothing else, if you're not going to support me, just come out and support local comedy and people just trying to give it their all and seeing what they could do. So, anyways, if you want to support me, make sure you follow me on Twitter at ManScoutManning. If you have any more emails about the podcast, if you want to sponsor this podcast, please email me at jake@sslshow.com. And if you want to book me for any wrestling shows upcoming, make sure you email me at manscoutmanning@yahoo.com. That is the public email. That is the booking email. If you have anything about the podcast, I'll entertain it on the booking email as well. That's quite okay. But anyways, enough of the plugs, enough of where I'm going to be. Let's jump into this wonderful conversation with Robbie from Muddy River Distillery here on Stranger in a Southern Land. Well, Robbie, we're here at your establishment, Muddy River Distillery here in Belmont, North Carolina. Thank you for welcoming me into your facility. It's quite an impressive facility.
Thank you. Thank you for coming out here and doing this with us.
No, I appreciate it. Now, let's kind of just start with your background. We were talking a little bit before how, I'm a farm boy, you're a farm boy, you're from North Carolina. Can you just talk about your background, like just growing up, just real briefly?
Sure, yeah. I grew up in Wake Forest, North Carolina, on a small farm out there, and my parents started the farm, and it was a horse farm.
Okay, so I was just going to say cattle.
Yeah, we had horses out there. It was a equestrian farm, and it was 40 stalls. We actually lived in the barn. My mom and dad built and designed the barn itself, and so we lived in there with the intention of eventually going and building a house in another part of the property. And ended up, they decided after I had gone and went to college, I think pretty much when my sister had gone and went to college, decided to sell the farm. And now they currently live on a smaller farm in Apex, North Carolina.
Okay.
But I went from that farm to East Carolina University.
Okay, I was going to say, because I saw the flags, East Carolina University.
Yeah, we do East Carolina colored bottles, and I had the flag over the bathroom there. And we get the Pirate alumni out here and do everything we can with ECU. But yeah, I graduated ECU in '06.
Okay.
Graduated with a major in construction and a minor in business. And in '06, the economy kind of crashed, and construction went right down with it.
Yeah.
So I was lucky to get a job. So I got a job and actually building track homes in Greensboro, or Whitsett, North Carolina, kind of central North Carolina there, for 85 and 40. So I was building homes out there, and then I actually hooked up with a company called Rehab Builders. They were seemed like they were pretty booming at the time. After a year after I graduated, and they hired me to work with them. So once they hired me, I went from doing track home building to like historical rehabilitation and renovation work.
Okay.
In fact, we specialized in textile mills and old buildings, taking them from their normally run-down state to apartments or commercial space. And kind of fitting, considering now the distillery is in an old textile mill. But I worked with them, traveled throughout the Southeast, and the economy eventually affected them also. So it ended up we all just had to strap our tool belts on and do what we had to do to keep the company moving forward and going. It was an excellent company to work for, but it was long hours and it was hard. We were all in that bad economic state, and that's what kind of pushed us into starting our own business. So I went from working with them, actually continuing to work with them, and then start this distillery, which we got the idea for the distillery from an in-flight magazine. Actually working in Texas, taking a high school and turning it into apartments. Flying home one day to see Caroline, I read this article about making liquor, and now we sit in here making liquor full time.
Well, what was about the article that hit you? Like, was it like, did it seem so easy? Like, I could do this, or just something you wanted to do? Like, what was the thing that like struck you in that article or about it that made you want to do it?
Well, the first thing it talked about was how it was doing the opposite of the construction industry as far as growth goes.
Yes.
So it didn't talk about just liquor. It actually talked about alcohol as an industry. So it said in the 90s and 2000s, beer and wine exploded. And it didn't explode in the sense that Budweiser was making more money. It exploded in the sense that people realized you don't have to be Miller Coors or Budweiser to start a beer making company, a craft brewery.
Yeah.
And so this new industry came about of these small batch craft breweries. And that flourished. People loved the fact that they could get beer made in their backyard. So that industry grew like crazy. And that article talked about that, and then went further to say, hey, what about liquor? Not only can you make beer or wine or hard cider or whatever, you can also make liquor as a small company. You don't have to be Jack Daniels or Bacardi to do this.
Yeah.
So it went into a little bit about how that hadn't happened in the industry and it was inevitably going to happen, and then said, kind of, okay, this is what it takes, a general idea of what it takes to start a distillery. And that's pretty much the entire article. But I read that article and said, hey, not only is this industry going the opposite direction from the industry I'm in, but it looks like this might be kind of fun.
Yeah.
And rather than be the 100th brewery, let's be one of the first distilleries. So I got off that airplane, started making liquor. And I started making liquor in my kitchen, which is, you cannot make liquor for personal consumption in the United States. In fact, most countries in the world, you can't make liquor in your house. And people don't understand that. They say, oh, I can make beer in my house, I can make wine in my house. But it's not the same.
Yeah.
And I can go into those reasons later if you want to, but there's a big difference between beer, wine, cider, and liquor.
Yeah, especially in North Carolina, there's a long history of people making it, like a very rich history.
So yeah, we made liquor in the kitchen. We make rum to this day because when we went to make liquor in the kitchen, we didn't know what to make. So I'm sitting here wondering what kind of recipe I'm going to put together. And my buddy Scott was in town, and he's like, hey, man, I drink Captain Morgan's or whatever. He was just some spiced rum. Yeah. And he goes, I drink this spiced rum. Why don't you make rum? And he's like, we'll both make rum. So me and Scott and Caroline started making rum in the kitchen. mostly me and Scott. Caroline was pretty much like, don't do that in the kitchen. But we did that in the kitchen. And in fact, the still we built was a glorified pot.
Okay.
A pot, some gaskets, parts and pieces that I'd either collected on a job site or actually Alternative Beverage, which is my neighbor here at the distillery. They're a beer and wine hobby supply. And regardless of the legality of home distillation, they sell a lot of things that you can put together to make liquor in your house. So anyway, I bought a bunch of stuff there, including yeast and ingredients and some parts of the still. And we made liquor in the kitchen. Worst rum you'd ever drank in your entire life. This stuff was, I've probably dropped a chromosome since I've drank that stuff. It's terrible. But we made liquor in the kitchen. Hated the product we made. Well, actually, we thought it was better than it actually was.
Well, I'm sure at the time you thought it was the greatest thing ever.
Yeah, it's amazing. We were like, oh my God, to see the still producing alcohol and measuring it and seeing that it is actually, it worked. We did it.
Yeah.
Was awesome. It was a huge thrill, and we fell in love with it after that. So the obsession of making the still and making the booze was fun. The product we made, nobody wanted to drink it. So anyway, we just took that, and Scott, he didn't really get into the whole business idea of it. He just wanted to try it out, a little experiment.
He just wanted the free alcohol. That's all he wanted.
Pretty much.
Yeah. So.
And but me, on the other hand, I wanted to take this to the next level. So I was like, hey, let's build a bigger still. Well, to build a bigger still, I needed more. I live in a little apartment in Charlotte, so I don't have a backyard, but my parents have a farm. And to be a legitimate moonshiner, you need to do this in the woods.
Okay, so we're taking from the step, I'm just making it in the kitchen as a hobby. Now I'm going to be a legitimate moonshiner, and then we'll figure out how to make it legal.
Exactly.
Those are the steps you have to go through.
Yeah, essentially saying, hey, how do we scale this thing?
Yeah.
So we start building the still in my parents' backyard. Again, going to Alternative Beverage to get some parts, going to the job site to get a bunch of parts, and eBay and wherever else. Meanwhile, going to other distilleries and researching how they're doing what they're doing, and just talking to those people, studying their equipment to see how you build it. The best way to learn how to make liquor is to build a still. That teaches you the in and out of every piece of that machine, why each little knob and valve is where it's at, why the plates are where they're at. Anyway, all of that stuff. So we built this bigger still in my parents' backyard, and about the time we finished it, my parents said, you just need to get the hell off my property. This is ridiculous. So they kicked us out. In fact, my dad actually sat me down and had a serious intervention about why I needed to just stick, because I went to school for construction. He said, you need to do construction. You're going to go broke. You're going to spend all your savings account on this distillery. That's never going to happen.
That's kind of illegal right now.
And it's illegal, yeah.
You're doing something illegal right now.
Yeah, you're breaking the law.
I mean, it's not meth, but I mean...
But it's halfway there, I guess.
Yeah, it falls in the same... Yeah.
So, he sat me down and tried to have that intervention. Well, I somehow convinced the most pessimistic man in the world, my dad, that, hey, this is maybe something might be something here. Yeah. And I told him everything I thought about it, and I showed him what I call my business plan, which was a glorified Excel spreadsheet at the time. Yeah. It was basically a 10 or 20 worksheet Excel spreadsheet that said, hey, give me 2 years, I'll be sitting on a yacht and have a staff and all that nonsense. Obviously hasn't happened yet.
I was going to say, like, when's the staff come in?
Where's the yacht?
I saw the boat. It's not quite a yacht.
Not quite a yacht. It does float, though.
There you go.
I'm not sure if it runs, like the forklift. But yeah, anyway, I apparently convinced him during that intervention, and he let me go. He said, okay, fine, I won't hate on you anymore for this. And at that point, he still did say, you don't do this in my backyard. You got to go. Yeah. So at that point, we went on this stakeout to find a facility that my terrible construction salary could afford. And you can't just find any facility. You need industrial property. Yeah. So we came across this place on Craigslist. And not this place like this facility we're in now, but we found a facility in the back that was 500 square feet. It was big enough. It was zoned properly. By big enough, it was nowhere near big enough. And I didn't realize that until it was too late. But we moved into that facility, and we put together the actual distillery that we started with. So to start a distillery, before you file for any permits, you have to have a facility that functions as a distillery. Then you can start your permits. So you rent this facility, you build your distillery within it, you get all your building code enforcement and your fire marshal and all that stuff taken care of, and then you can apply for a federal ABC permit. Hardest thing I ever done in my entire life. Filing for a federal permit required sending in this elaborate application. For us was 78 pages.
Yeah.
Handwritten documents and diagrams and procedures, the keys to my house, fingerprints, criminal anything you can imagine.
Names of your first 2 children.
Yeah, exactly. You got to give them the first one.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Even if they haven't been born yet, just the names of them.
Yeah. And they know to get them.
Yeah.
It's all because making liquor can be extremely dangerous. We
Yes.
take low concentrations of alcohol that won't affect you unless you drown in it. And we distill that to a higher concentration, which means we concentrate good and bad product. And and it's very heavily taxed. So they want to make sure that you're not a crazy person. On top of, they also want to make sure that you're not going to duck out and
Yeah, they're going to get theirs.
they're going to get their cut.
Yeah.
So anyway, I turned that permit in November 30th and received it back in 2 months, which is insane.
It's got to be.
10 months ahead of
that's like
schedule.
that's faster turnaround than most passports that
Yeah.
I've applied for.
Most people that we do tours with or that I tell that story to, they don't care. They don't think it's that big of a deal. But the federal government says that it takes a year to get a federal permit. And most distilleries budget for a year of just sitting on a functioning facility that they can't use.
Yeah.
So for us to get it 10 months ahead of schedule was just,
It's got to be remarkable.
it's like winning the lottery, essentially. Yeah. And from there, all we had to do was get a state permit. State permit was fairly easy. We'd already gone through building code and fire marshal and all that nonsense. Once we had our federal permit, you simply turn in another set of keys to the house, another criminal background check, your fingerprints, and write them a check. You got a state permit. So we got our state permit the very beginning of 2012. I think I messed my whole timeline up. Anyway, we got our state permit, and we became that was our benchmark for becoming a legal distillery, and not only a legal distillery, but the 5th legal distillery in the state. So before us, there was a couple moonshine distilleries. There was a brandy, actually really good brandy, Carriage House Apple Brandy in Lenore, and a gin, Cardinal Gin in Kings Mountain. So. And those guys, we still hang out to this day. They're really cool people. But we came along as the first rum distillery in the state. Not only, the first rum distillery in the state and 5th registered distillery in the state. And 500 square feet, still built in my parents' backyard, making about 40 bottles a day. So since then, we've grown from that 500 square feet to now our facility is 6,000 square feet. And we've built a couple more stills. We got... our production rate is now from 40 bottles a day to now over 300 bottles a day. And we're planning on growing, in fact, building another still to more than double what our current capacity is. So we only sell in North Carolina still. And we only do that with 2 products. We have a silver rum and a barrel-aged rum. We also make alcohol for other companies. So in our downtime, when we're not making rum, we're making product for other distilleries. One includes moonshine that actually just hit North Carolina ABC stores yesterday, the 23rd. So, yeah. Brand new product out. Papa Murphy's Mule Kickin' Midnight Moonshine.
Yeah, because I just saw it over there, a bottle of it on the table.
That's one of our contractors. They're out of Gastonia. It's Carolina Heritage, and they came to us several months ago, and said, hey, rather than us start a distillery, we just want to have a product to sell. We don't want to go through all that nonsense and headache that you did, and we don't want to be manufacturers. We want to market.
So they just want to contract your facility out to produce a product.
So I do all the manufacturing, and they do all the marketing, which
that's got to be nice, because here's your bottles, go ahead. Because it seems like that's the biggest headache right now. I think we were talking before that just trying to get your product in stores because you can't sell on this facility.
Oh, yeah. That's a big deal. Marketing is a huge aspect of what we do. Just having people know you exist.
Absolutely.
And doing anything I can, like hanging out with you and anything you can do to get your name out there. It's tough.
Yeah, any project that I've ever gone into, maybe a documentary or a promotion or any type of show or podcast or anything else, I always look at it. It's going to take 2 years of just letting people know that I exist.
Mm-hmm.
It's a 2-year process. About 3 years, people have heard of you, and they might take a chance on what you're selling. And then hopefully about 5 years, maybe people are like, I'll buy it every once in a while.
Yeah.
And then hopefully by 7, that's the time that people care. So that's the process in itself.
So I guess you're telling me 7 years is when the yacht comes, right?
Yeah, exactly. Well, maybe after about a good year from the 7 and the 10 year, at the 10-year mark,
10 year, okay. I can look forward to that.
Yeah, because those are your gravy years.
10 years would put me at 37. Okay. So I can still have a little bit of fun then.
Yeah, but I mean, you're still young, and you're still doing it. So
I'll be probably spending all my money on kids or something at that point.
Yeah.
Or even better, I'll have them making the booze so I can go hang out and do what I need to do.
You should have started early in this kids thing, so you had a workforce.
You know the idea because you grew up on a farm.
Yes.
I'm sure your parents probably had you to do the chores.
Oh, yes. I got stuck with all the really awful ones. But then it got to a point that, like, I think my parents, like my dad, made me do all the awful jobs so I wouldn't have to work. So I wouldn't be like, hey, this farming stuff is fun. So I can go off and I can make money.
So
and then
you know better.
Yeah. So I know better. I go off and get rich and then take care of them on the back half. Mm-hmm. I think they switched that idea like halfway through, like when I was 13, 14.
Pretty smart thinking.
Yeah. Because I was into computers, and my dad was like, oh, if he gets into computers, he can make a bunch of money. And
get off the farm.
We get off the farm, and then I don't have to do anything, and then he can just take care of me. So,
nice.
Because there was a while there, I'm like, oh, I'm going to make him work all the time. Then all of a sudden you realize, oh, let me try this other route. It's a long shot.
Yeah. Well, that's cool.
So.
Yeah. I don't know if my parents had the same mentality, but they sure as hell made me do some of the harder tasks.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely. Like a livestock farm seemed always to be the worst. Like when my dad raised cattle, that was the worst. He hated that so much.
Does he still do it now? Or?
No, he's a grain farmer, but he also works in construction as well. Mm-hmm. He always says that his construction job is supporting his farming habit. So that's
I like it.
Yeah, that's his joke. But but he did have a few good years, like because there was a lot of a large demand in corn.
Oh yeah.
And that's long ago, because there was a bunch of flooding in Memphis and a lot of the Mid-South area. A lot of that corn got wiped out. So his corn became increasingly higher in value. So he really cashed in for 2 or 3 years. Like he's really
awesome.
He's kind of turned it around, and then of course he's been buying like pieces off of my grandmother from my grandfather's farm. So like he's owning more and more land. So he's doing quite well for himself right now.
That's really
and it's great because now all his kids are growing up, so none of that money is going to us. So that's all going into his pocket right now. Where if that was going on while we were in high school, I mean that would have went to cars, prom dresses and all kinds of stuff. Where now it just goes straight to his pocket. And we were all out of college when that happened, so that was great for him.
Yeah, so nice. Well, that's good. That means maybe he'll be retiring.
Oh, he'll be one of those guys that work to the day he dies.
Yeah.
And I'm sure that's the type of what we were raised, and that's probably what we'll end up doing.
Work until you stop working, you die.
Yeah, but one of those things that my dad, why he became a farmer, is because he wanted to own his own business, doing his own thing. And it's just the idea of like I can work these hours, like my dad will work 18 hours, much like which I'm sure you do as well. Like what's a typical day here?
Oh, typical day is get here like a farmer when the sun's coming up or before, and turn on the machines. You let them heat up, and then you collect the alcohol throughout the day. Meanwhile, running around this place like a chicken with your head cut off, doing things like making mash or bottling or a lot of meetings, a lot of logistics going on. And then at the end of the day, shutting the machine down, filling it back up, and getting it ready to run for the next day.
Like how long is a regular day for you here?
We average out here 18 hours. It's a little longer in the wintertime, a little shorter in the summertime, but 18 hours. Yesterday was, I want to say 17 hours, which was a pleasant surprise. And then today will probably be 19, 20 hours. But yeah, average 18 hours. So it's a long day. And it's important to run it a long day. We could go faster, but part of the quality in our products is taking our time with it. And it's tedious, but it's small business. That's how you do it.
Yeah, absolutely, because you stand by your product.
Exactly. That's first and foremost, above everything else, is the quality.
Yeah, and because you got to go in and you got to sell your product into the stores.
Right.
Because like we were talking about before, you can't sell on this location. But you were saying before, most breweries can sell on location, and that's a large part of their income.
Yeah, it's a big deal. And we're working on changing that law so that we can sell on premise. But in the meantime, our current structure is you make rum, then you bottle the rum. Or let me start over. You make the rum, you make the mash, you wait for the mash to become wine, then you take that wine and you make rum out of it. Then you take half of what you make and you put it in a barrel to be aged for our barrel-aged rum, our Queen Charlotte's Reserve. You take the other half and you age it in tanks so that it doesn't get the color, but so that it breathes and oxidizes. And you age that for a short period of time before you bottle it. So then you bottle the white rum and you send it in North Carolina, you send it to Raleigh, North Carolina. So all the product that we make goes to Raleigh, North Carolina, and it goes there in the form of pallets.
So everything,
every drop.
Because for most people that don't live in North Carolina, we have ABC stores. We don't have liquor stores.
Yeah, it's a lot different than the private state where everything is centrally located and centrally run by North Carolina ABC system.
Okay.
So, and some of the things that they do at first, they seem crazy, but they've been doing it a while, so they know what's
like before. Like, this is a notoriously big bootlegging state, so there's laws on the books that probably aren't even relevant anymore, but like were put into place because of all the bootlegging and everything else. So there's such a tight grip over the alcohol distribution in the state.
Exactly, and it's something a lot of people disagree with, but it's worked very well for Muddy River. I mean, it could be better if we could change a lot of these laws, but until they change.
Like how's it helped you?
It's helped us. So say, for instance, in North Carolina, you have 400 and something liquor stores, 420 something liquor stores.
Okay.
Now say each of those, I sell in about 375, 380 of those. If I had to ship my product to each of those stores or a handful of distributors to go to those stores, it would be a nightmare.
Okay, yeah.
Lucky
you get the
for
individual,
me.
the shipping costs as opposed to just a bulk order.
I send it all to Raleigh, and it sits on Raleigh in consignment, which is tough because when it leaves my house, or my distillery, you'd think it was my house.
Yeah, you spend more time here than your house.
Yeah, when it leaves here, I have to pay federal tax on it. So I pay that money long before I get paid back for it. Okay. Well, in a sense. It's a very long turnaround on rum. Almost 4 months from the day I spend the money on the silver rum to where I get paid, where it's well over a year and 4 months on the barrel-aged rum that I've invested the money. So that's why I don't have the yacht, I guess.
Exactly. You got to pay, like my father, he always had to buy the seed,
and
seed
let
corn.
It grow, and then God forbid he have a bad season.
Exactly, and then he can't pay for the seed for the next season.
So it's tough. Yeah. But that's what, we've been doing it long enough to where now we've got a handle on it.
Yeah.
Anyway, it goes to Raleigh, and then Caroline will go out to the liquor store and say, here's my product. It retails for this number. Will you buy it? And the state negotiates our retail price, which people get all bent out of shape about.
Yeah, because I've noticed that too. It's specific types are set at one particular rate. There's no market value.
No matter what
supply, demand, whatever.
No matter where you buy our product, it's always the same price.
Yeah.
Even though there's a much larger demand in Charlotte than anywhere else in the state, you still pay the same price in Jacksonville, North Carolina, as you do in Raleigh, North Carolina, or Charlotte, North Carolina. And at the same time, when our product's discounted, it's discounted throughout the state. Yeah. And the state tells us what we're allowed to sell our product for, which sounds crazy, but the state's not going to put a product on the shelf that retails at $50 and it's a silver rum.
Yeah.
They're going to say, no, you're just going to collect dust and waste our shelf space. So they negotiate pricing with us. And so we went to the state and we said, here's our new product. In fact, we're about to do that with our products coming up.
Okay.
But and I can talk about those too. I forgot about those guys. But we go to the state and say, here's our rum. We'd like it to retail at $20. And they say, hey, that's actually, a fair price. We can do that. So our silver rum gets listed at $20, and Caroline goes out to the liquor stores and says, here's our product. So that is kind of a pain. We have to go, once it's in the system, it doesn't mean you're getting shelf placement. You still have to go to the individual places.
Stores and then have them sign up for it.
Yeah, and it's not like some places are individual stores, like Cramerton, which sells a lot of our product because they're right down the road from us. Yeah. They're one store. one store, one horse town kind of thing. Whereas Mecklenburg has 25 stores.
Yeah.
So it depends on the municipality that sets up the board. Anyway, they get the product and they put it on the shelf, and then we have to get the consumer to buy it. So we market our products by going to bars and restaurants, doing things like this. Groupon and Living Social are huge for us right now. In fact, that's probably our biggest marketing tool at the moment, is getting on Groupon and Living Social. We bring people out here, 100 or more people every week to see this place, and give them samples of the products so they can try it before they buy it, give them a shot glass, and basically teach them, as far as they want to take it, how we make rum.
And that's the more difficult part about not being able to sell on location, is imagine how many bottles you could sell just by the tours. I've taken many distillery tours. I took one at Buffalo Trace, Maker's Mark.
That was an awesome tour at Buffalo Trace. Yeah.
Yes. Did you have it with the Colonel?
And
there's a guy that gets up there and talks about he's a Kentucky Colonel, and he goes to this big long story. It's well worth going to try and get him.
I'm going to have to request him next time.
He asked for the Colonel, because the Colonel, he is an actual certified Kentucky Colonel. And anybody can be a Colonel. You have to represent the state in a certain way. And since he is a tour guide,
kind of like a notary.
Yeah, kind of in the same sense. They can just, you are now a Colonel, and you basically say that I represent the state of Kentucky in a positive way, either for tourism, business, or whatever.
Why doesn't every state have that?
I know it'd be awesome if every state had their own Colonel.
that.
Yeah, exactly. But he was a Colonel, and he went on this long spiel and talking about how, other states may make bourbon, but they're not technically bourbon, and it was such a, this is bourbon. This is what bourbon is made out of, and it is only from Kentucky, and just, it's a whole spiel.
That's awesome, and he's passionate about it.
Yeah, exactly, and passionate, and sold the whole product. So of course, by the end of the tour, we're buying all of those products, and then down the line, I'm ordering them down, all that. But the thing is too, I bet you would love to run those tours and know that, okay, at each one of these tours, we're going to sell 2 bottles at the end of the day.
Yeah, that would be cool. And that's something that we're working on changing. We're trying to get the same rights as the beer guys and the wine guys, because they can all do that. And they had to gather as an organization, the breweries and the wineries. Well, the breweries had to gather as their own organization, and the wineries gathered as their own. Yeah. And said, hey, let's not be competitive with each other. Let's join together as a collective group and change these laws so that we benefit each other in the state. Yeah. And that's what distilling has actually been pretty good about doing. All the other distilleries are very friendly with each other.
That's very good.
We are getting together. We're friendly with ABC system as well as any other group that has opposition. In fact, a lot of people opposed this whole idea of us selling at first. Yeah. And ABC was one of them, until we explained that, hey, we're not taking away business. We're not hurting anybody. We're not creating alcoholics. We're simply trying to do what the beer guys and the wine guys already proved was a beneficial change. So anyway, we're gathering together to try to change that. On the state level, we're trying to allow in-distillery sales to make this a longer destination than just a small educational thing. You can come out here, especially for out-of-state people that might show up here on a Sunday. If you show up here on a Sunday, you're not going to the liquor store when you leave here.
Exactly.
So allowing things like that, which increases tourism, it actually is proven to increase in ABC store sales. So they'll buy a bottle from us, but then next time they go, they're not going to come here. They're going to go to their local ABC store to pick up another one.
Exactly. And every time that I've gone to a distillery tour, I get the one on site and then later on. So,
I do too. Yeah.
That's the way I do it.
And so anyway, we're working on changing that. And that would be huge. You would see us hire people when that happened. Yeah,
and that's what the state should be trying to do, is creating jobs as opposed to using red tape to strangle that.
And I think most people, I'm being optimistic here, but a lot of people in office are on our side and trying to allow us to grow. Because if we don't change those laws and grow, then our industry, the distilling industry that's booming like crazy right now, will be crippled in North Carolina, and it'll flourish throughout the rest of the country. And you'll see everybody else just doing awesome things, and North Carolina won't get any credit because we can't get past our antiquated laws. So anyway, that's my rant about
this is the platform for that. And that's another thing you have to worry about too, is the politics of the whole matter.
It's not easy to change a bill. This bill we've been working on, we've had, I think, close to 2 years now. It used to be House Bill 842, and then just this year we had to reintroduce it as House Bill 24. Is that right? House Bill 24? Senate Bill 24. There's a House Bill last year. I don't know what I'm talking about, obviously, but we really think it'll get passed this year. Well, we hope so.
Well, that'd be awesome.
It'll change everything about what we do. But until then, we've been successful without it.
Well, and like you said, you're out there hustling your product, in a sense. You get people to know and like it, and then and that's the thing too, is like you want them to go out and give them a call to action later. You know what I'm saying, to go out and buy it. So you really have to sell pretty hard. You know, where when you're in the ABC store, like that's the one thing that I guess is nice when you go to the ABC store. Like, this is our product, this is retails for, you want it, we really, and you give them the spiel, and then they either say yes or they don't. Right. Where other states, if it was just an individual liquor store, you'd have to be like, well, I could probably give you a deal this way, but if you're going to buy this, you're going to have to buy more. So you lose that flexibility in a sense.
Yeah, I'm so glad you brought that up, because that is huge. You go to South Carolina, and that's one of the reasons we only sell in North Carolina, is that our price is our price no matter where we go. And Caroline doesn't get hassled when she goes somewhere to offer discounts, because we can't afford to discount a product at this rate. We already sell, especially when you look at across the board in North Carolina products, we sell at the very affordable end of things, for considering the quality especially. So that ability, that kind of makes ABC a protective barrier against the market, when you have the big guy going in and saying, hey, I'll buy you a trip to the Bahamas if you don't carry that Muddy River stuff, or I won't put you in the store unless you give me the first 20 cases for free. And so that is a big deal for us. That's helped us tremendously.
Okay, so it's been more of an advantage for you than it is a disadvantage.
The disadvantage of it is the lack of ability to market our own product. If I donate a product to a charity, I have to buy that product from the ABC store. I can only do small samplings in my distillery. I can't go to a liquor store and do samplings on site. I would have a staff running around sitting in liquor stores just saying, here, try my product, if that was an opportunity.
And probably the flexibility with restaurants as well. Like, you go into some place.
You can't do any crazy, weird promotions that you might get away with somewhere else.
Or find some local business or a local bar, like, hey, if you guys will order this, I'll discount it for this, but you would be like one of the sponsored, like, put it on your website. If you want to be drinking Muddy River rum, make sure you go to this place, and that type of cross promotion.
Yeah, it's tough, but that said, it'll all change eventually.
But it is nice that you say that it levels the playing field with you as opposed to the big boys and the larger companies. So I guess it does help in that sense.
Yeah, it really comes down to being local and the quality of the product at that point, which is nice. They can't bully me out of my markets that I'm in. So, yeah, I think the only big thing after that is selling in the distillery to increase the tourism aspect of it.
Okay. What are some other marketing things? You talk about the Groupon and stuff like that, and Living Social. What are some other things that you guys have thought about or given some thought to about marketing yourself?
Well, we do events, beer festivals, and I speak at whatever things I can speak at. We've done charities in the past. We're trying to have a big festival outside of our facility, because our facility is right on the river.
Yeah, it's a beautiful, you got that river right there, and it's a nice open area, nice big parking lot. It's wonderful out there.
Yeah, it's really cool out there. It's just a matter of getting the permits again to be able to have that festival properly. What else do we do? Groupon, Living Social. Social media in general is huge for us. We do local competitions. I won't pay money to enter my product in competitions, and you'd be surprised how easy it is to get a medal when you pay an entry fee.
Oh, I bet.
But we've won some local awards, including the Big Sip Cup in Greensboro, and our local awards like Creative Loafing has also given us some credit a couple times. We tried to do a national competition. It was Martha Stewart's American Made Awards.
Okay.
We submitted our products for something Southern Living's doing. I don't know exactly what that is, but that just happened last week. Okay. So we'll see what comes of that. And then tonight we'll be on PBS.
Oh, fantastic.
Yeah, Caroline, what's the name of the PBS thing? North Carolina Now will be on tonight at 7:30.
Okay.
So I won't be watching it because
yes, you'll be here.
I don't have cable on that ancient TV there.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's going to be on tonight, so I'm excited about that. Okay. And that's about it. You know, we do our biggest thing, and what I take the most pleasure in hearing is when people have heard of us from word of mouth. Mm-hmm. So every time I do a tour, we do 30 to 40 people in a tour. And I asked them at some point, where did you guys hear that we existed? Mm-hmm. Say there's 40 people in the tour, you get 36 of those people will tell you Groupon or Living Social. Mm-hmm. Obviously, because they came to do the tour. Yeah. The other 4 people have heard of us from other avenues, being in the news or something like that. And then you get, 1 or 2 per tour that says a friend gave us your rum or bought us a drink with your rum or told us we had to come take your tour, something like that. And that's the best way to grow our company. Yeah. I told you earlier, we only sell in North Carolina. Now, for a distillery that's our size, that might sound kind of dumb. In fact, a lot of the other distillers would say, you only sell in North Carolina and it's a control state. You're crazy. Mm-hmm. But the reason we only sell in North Carolina is because our idea is that as long as we've had this distillery, if we can't grow on the success in our own neighborhood, in our own state, then we don't have any business making liquor. Mm-hmm. So literally there's enough people that drink rum in Charlotte, North Carolina for this distillery to be very, very successful. Mm-hmm. And until we get everybody in Charlotte telling their friends and each other to drink our rum, and our rum is on every bar shelf in the state, we don't really have a business going out of state. And I think that's important. Even though a distillery could theoretically go out and stock shelves throughout the Southeast and make a lot of money, you need to resell bottles to the same customers rather than just
you got to have that stronghold before you start reaching further out. Exactly. Because that could come and go, where here you're going to have that loyal base that'll stick with you.
No matter what happens, as long as you stick to your quality, they'll stick to you. Mm-hmm. And that's very important to us. We're still growing. I mean, last year alone, we grew 243% over the previous year, which is pretty easy to do when you're a small company just getting a little bigger. Mm-hmm. But that's a big growth for us. And that goes back to why we're still, just us working and eating ramen noodles every day, not sitting on that yacht. We're spending every dime we make on making more rum. For every bottle we sell, we make 3 to anticipate next year's demand. And it's tough. On our margin, it's tough. But it's awesome that North Carolina is doing that. Just North Carolina is growing our business. So that'd be really cool. That's another way that North Carolina could change its laws, is allow us to ship out of state. We get a daily request, or maybe not daily request, but several a week of people wanting us to ship them our product. Mm-hmm. And the way the law is set up, if I want to ship my product to another person in another state, I have to first distribute it to another state, and then they can sell it to that person. Okay. So North Carolina loses all the potential revenue of me direct shipping to that individual customer. Mm-hmm. Anyway, don't mean to bring politics back up.
No, that's fine. There's a lot of politics involved with all this. Yeah. So I mean, it's a big to do. And like I said, this is a very controlled state. Mm-hmm. Like I said, my girlfriend was from Louisville, Kentucky. And just the liquor stores open from 9 a.m. to 4 p.m, to just being able to come and get whatever you want for whatever price and stuff like that. So.
Well, if we could change the laws, who knows? North Carolina could be the next Kentucky. I mean, Kentucky's known for bourbon especially, but they are a major player in alcohol production in the world. Yeah. And North Carolina, I mean, I told you we were number 5. There's already over 20 of us, and another 20 in the process of becoming a distillery. So, and some of these people are growing really, really large, really quickly. Some of these other distilleries in North Carolina, there's no reason we can't offer that same, we can't be competitive in this industry.
Yeah, and they always talk about Kentucky, or at least the Colonel told me over and over again why Kentucky bourbon is far superior to anything else in the world.
He talked about the water.
And also too, he said corn, but of course, me being from Iowa, I know my Iowa corn is far superior.
You have better corn, yeah.
Yes, and also too, he said the water was better in Kentucky because of the limestone. Well, there's a lot of limestone in Iowa, so I would disagree with the Colonel that Kentucky isn't the only place that makes great bourbon. But what are some of the things, maybe agriculturally, locally, that help with you creating rum here? Like I think you do South Carolina, like molasses or something like that.
We get our molasses is actually grown. Our cane is grown in Louisiana.
Okay, in Louisiana,
and it's coming from a South Carolina distributor.
Okay.
I'm searching for North Carolina molasses, but it's tough. You can't find anybody that makes it consistently or enough. We just don't have the climate for it. Now we've started that moonshine, which is corn liquor, and so the contractor actually brings the corn in. I don't want to quote where he gets that corn from. I'm not exactly sure.
Yeah.
But I grew up next to a corn farmer. So, in fact, he made Silver Queen corn every year, and he would bring it every day. He worked at our farm when he wasn't working on his. But there's good corn in North Carolina, and most of the moonshine and whiskey distilleries in North Carolina brag about using local corn, so that's a big deal.
Okay.
Also, the wheat and rye and barley that's grown around here is something that beer guys and whiskey guys and moonshine guys source locally. So we can do all those things. North Carolina is a pretty awesome state for that stuff. I wouldn't say we're the absolute best in any one category, but
across the board, you're good enough that you produce a good product.
It's good enough for those farm-to-table restaurants and people like us to locally source our product, pretty much whatever it is.
Yeah.
Well, with the exception of apparently molasses.
Yes, that's the one hang-up of it all.
Yeah,
but of course
might change.
Yeah, but of course you have Virginia's got some agricultural parts as well as North Carolina, and even then you dip into Georgia as well. So you got all that type of variety right there.
It is nice being right on the border here in Charlotte to go down to South Carolina in no time.
Yeah, and not far from Georgia as well. And then you're only really 2 hours away from Virginia as well. So, but yeah, there's a lot of things locally that are kind of advantage. But also too, let's talk about with your wife has been back and forth in the video shot. Is it just you two working here? 18 hours a day?
Now, we have friends and family that we wouldn't be a distillery right now if they didn't come and help us on a regular basis. We call in the troops sometimes. But yeah, Caroline and I are here 18 hours a day or traveling in the meantime, sometimes sleeping, doing other things. But mostly it's the two of us that handle everything. We can do things very efficiently here as far as that goes. And we're into what we're doing. So working the long hours doesn't hurt as bad as a job that you might hate doing.
Yeah, you're not dealing with middle management and then knowing he's getting yelled at by the boss, then he yells down to you. It's only you two fighting.
But I get yelled at all the time. It's just, I know where it's coming from, and I know it's usually my fault. But yeah, Caroline actually, I was more obsessed with this when it first started, and then Caroline was actually the first full-time employee. And she does all our sales and marketing. She went to school for accounting, so she does all the accounting.
That's fantastic.
Yeah, that's a big deal. That was like winning the lottery by itself.
Yes.
So she does the accounting, and actually her biggest task lately, it used to be marketing was her biggest purpose. But lately, we found this out when we moved from the old facility to the new facility. So while renovating the new facility, making it what we needed it, she was kind of fast-tracked into learning how to run the equipment. And so she had to learn how to run the stills while I was down doing construction on the new place. And so by doing that, she somehow got better at making liquor than I did. In fact, when you first showed up, the stills weren't running right, and now they seem to be doing pretty damn good right now. So Caroline makes the liquor. And I help make the liquor too. We're both in it because she has to go do a lot of other things during the day, so I fill in. But we're both distillers. I do all the logistics and making the mash. I mop the floors. Caroline mops. We do all the cleaning. She is our head taster. Okay. So you guys might think, oh yeah, that's a nonsense job that anybody can taste liquor, but it's not true. I personally think
all the palate for it.
Yes, exactly. I personally think it all tastes good.
Yeah, I'm the same way.
Yeah, she is more discerning. She will say, this is good, this is not as good. And at our niche, in our craft market, we can only take what she says is good, not what I say and what she says. Only what she says is good. And unfortunately, that means some days I'll make liquor and she'll reject it but it is what it is. I'd rather her reject it and lose an 18-hour day than I would lose a sale when someone grabs a bad bottle of rum.
Yeah.
So she's our taster. She tastes everything, and I'll blind taste her sometimes just to keep her on her toes and make sure our products maintain the same quality.
Mm-hmm.
Having her around's a big deal because you saw me freaking out before she got here. And we spend every waking moment doing this stuff together.
Mm-hmm. So, well, that's good. That hopefully makes you close. You know, my boss, my boss's first wife started his business that way. And notice I said first wife. So hopefully, you know, you get a few more employees in here, get a few buffers when it gets into about year 7.
You know, we made it through. There was a tough time where it was like, okay, can we do this together, or should one of us go back to our day jobs and hire somebody? And there was like, oh, I don't know. Then it just seemed like we ignored it for a second, and now it's awesome. So I couldn't picture not doing this with her.
Yeah.
So we got very lucky as far as that goes. A lot of people wouldn't be able to spend that much time with each other.
Yeah.
Maybe it's because I'm a little on the needy side and need people around me all the time. But yeah, having her there is a big deal. So.
Mm-hmm. Like I said, she's got the woman's touch to the distilling part of it too. But then also you have the menial stuff like the bottling. I just saw a bunch of bottles sitting over there on the table.
Yeah, I do the mindless activities for the most part. Now Caroline will come in and help me with that, but for the most part, in fact, that pile of bottles you see on the table, that I did all that last week.
Okay.
So she's in here making the cuts and doing the important job of making the liquor. I'm back there staring at the bottle filler.
Yeah, but you can put in earbuds and put in whatever and just tone.
It's an art. I use I wouldn't call it top of the line equipment. I use affordable equipment to bottle. So
we have to right now. That's where you're at right now until
you get into this very perfect rhythm of bottling, and once you get in there, you can just kind of run with it. You put your radio on and you just go to town on it.
Yeah. Absolutely. It's this way I am with programming websites and streaming websites. You just get in a rhythm and just click and go, and then you just get in that. And also, too, I noticed you dip your bottles. Am I right?
Yeah, actually, we dipped them until what you see on the table back there is our first batch of our new rum. We rebranded our silver rum. Okay. So the Carolina rum that you see up there on that with the brown craft paper logo is changing.
Okay.
The wax is nice. It gives you that, okay, we did this by hand. I love the wax. I always have loved the wax.
Yeah.
It's a liability. I got a burn on my arm. You can see the tail of it sticking out here. It goes from right here.
Yeah, I see that.
So right there.
Oh.
And had that been an employee or my wife, this business wouldn't be here today. So the liability behind the wax is extremely, it's high. And yes, you can mediate that. You can control that with gloves and goggles and stuff.
Me and my girlfriend dipped our own bottle at Maker's Mark.
Yep. So they still do it.
Yep.
And that's the main reason we don't do wax anymore. Maker's Mark sent us a cease and desist on that wax. Yeah. And it's tough. They, in the letter, say that they stole the idea from a winery back in the day. And yet they've been able to trademark it so no one else can do it. And it's regardless of color. It's a free-forming wax, and it's an argument that in the past they've lost. They've actually been able to. The small guy has actually been able to say, "Hey, I'm going to do this anyway," and won in court. Mm-hmm. But that, coupled with our liability and the fact that I work 1,000 hours a week, I'm not going to go fight Maker's Mark. Yeah. I'm going to rebrand and hope it doesn't impact.
You're going to run out of money before they will.
Exactly. I'm just going to hope it doesn't impact my sales.
Yeah.
And we're using it as kind of a marketing tool that, hey, as of last week, Maker's Mark felt us as a threat. They acknowledged that we were big enough to be on their radar. So I'm honored to have gotten the letter.
Yeah.
I'm a little disappointed in the fact that they feel like that's them, even though we've been waxing things as seals for thousands or at least hundreds of years. So that's frustrating, but you know what? If people take nothing else away from it, hopefully they'll see that we're a big enough distillery now to where Maker's Mark cares what we're doing and maybe feels compelled to drink our products in support of us against the big guy.
There you go. Like the sound
so
of that.
that's how I'm playing that.
There you go. That's how we'll play it.
Yeah.
Well, we're getting close to the end here. You were talking about like your future products and your future lines. I want to make sure you get that in as well as your social media. But you were saying some of the things that are coming out soon.
Yeah, we actually are in the federal approval process for coconut rum.
Okay.
And I'm chomping at the bit to give everybody a spiced rum. I get asked for spiced rum on a daily basis. Our coconut rum will be out by the summer, and it's phenomenal. So as soon as that's approved, I'll start sampling that in my tours, maybe another month or so. The spiced rum, I simply don't know how to make spiced rum yet, and I'll be honest with you. I can make spiced rum that beats Captain Morgan or some of my big competition, but on a craft level, I don't have a spiced rum that really hits that note that says, hey, this is something to really appreciate. Yeah. Yes, exactly. I like how you put that, actually.
Yeah.
So we don't have a spiced rum yet, but I'm working as hard as I possibly can. I'm drinking a lot of bad spiced rum in the meantime. So
it tastes great, but I don't,
Yeah. And we've got a couple other contractors that we've just finished up R&D on, and now going into full production on their products. And I can't say what those products are because I haven't gotten permission yet. Unfortunately, now I have a boss.
Yes.
Or several, actually. But we make products for other companies, so you'll be seeing those come up. And you might not see our name in big, bold print on the front of that label, but you'll start seeing our name in the fine print on the back.
Yeah.
Legally has to be there. But it's cool that people feel like our quality is there and good enough to make their products out of it. We've really seen that as a good thing. So
that's awesome.
That's the future.
That sounds great. Is there anything else we didn't hit on that you'd like to express and let everybody know? This is a public forum. Let people know.
I mean, just for the most part, people need to come out and see the place, see how rum's made, learn how to make it while you come out here, to the extent that you could, illegally go do it yourself. I mean, we are very thorough in our explanation of how we make our products, and I encourage people that want to get into an industry or start a business, whether it's making rum or making toothpicks. Starting a business is starting a business, and I encourage that on any level. So, now, I mean, we covered everything pretty well. I appreciate it.
I definitely agree. Now, how can people get in touch with you? Website, social media.
Best way to get in touch with us is contact us through the website. That goes to my personal email address.
Yeah, and that's how I got up with you. So I got directly to you. So.
Yep, that goes right to me because there's only two of us. If you want to see what we're doing, the biggest thing is to like us on the Facebook, Twitter, or Instagram. We're on Facebook as Muddy River Distillery, Twitter as First Carolina Rum, and Instagram is First Carolina Rum, and I'm not sure about Twitter. Oh, Twitter's at First Carolina Rum. And then the other one's Muddy River Distillery.
Okay.
I don't know. That's Caroline. Caroline's job is social media. But that's how people get our updates. We don't do a newsletter or anything like that yet. Well, we probably never do a newsletter. I hate getting newsletters.
Yeah.
So.
It's just, with Twitter and Instagram and everything else, just put it up.
It's so much easier. It's non-intrusive to people. I can't stand getting newsletters. You follow it or you
don't. It's right there.
Yeah, and stick with us. I mean, try our products.
All right. Well, thank you for taking the time today and taking time from running around back and forth from both ends of this warehouse. So thank you so much for sitting down and talking to me today.
Yeah, thanks for having us.